forget that Ryan Gosling's career started with this episode.
I get those goosebumps every time. I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side.
Hello, welcome back. This is Review Everywhere. My name is Josh Irby, and today's book, we're going to find out if it's picture perfect. This is Say Cheese and Die. Let's not forget that Ryan Gosling's career started with this episode. And this cover, need I say much? It's an absolute classic. The best part is this cover actually happens within the book's nightmare sequence. I don't really have too much to say. It's one of the best covers there is.
I'd say cheese and fry, but that's a grill.
Way to go, Tim. But it's not as good as the Gary Coleman grills. We're getting off topic.
Whoa, you're Gary Coleman. I know who I am.
Anyways, this book starts with Greg Banks and his friend Sherry, who can be described as the group girl, Michael, who's the guy who tells jokes that don't work, like me.
For themselves. First off, I'd like to say something. My mom has a weird assortment of kids. Oh, Tanner. Yo, tell me why the selection show featured a live audience.
One of these days, Rachel.
No flash time.
Rachel Irby's gonna get.
What is wrong with your family?
What is going on? What? Look at the window! Oh!
Wait a minute.
I can drive.
I can cry.
And then Bird, the class clown of the team. They are in a boring town of Pitt's Landing, and essentially they ran into the problem that most people run into a boring town. There's nothing to do. Eventually, what they figure would be a fun thing to do is go to one of the most ominous buildings in their town known as the Kaufman House.
First pitch.
It is Escobar, and he swings and hits it into left center. Back at the track, it is dropped. Cespedes couldn't make the catch. How about that effort? Digging around third. Here comes Escobar. 1-0 Kansas City.
What you see in the Kaufman House also is notable because of one of the weird people who's always seen there. A man by the nickname of
Andy
Spidey.
Kaufman. That's a reference
We'll
to a
keep it.
comedian.
And we'll keep my stare at you. But I won't even beat around the bush. When they go inside, what Greg Banks finds is a camera. This was considered a regular camera at first, but he finds out something really bizarre about it quickly. He takes a picture of his friend Michael at Michael's request. Strangely enough, the picture comes out with Michael appearing to fall down the stairs. And then he falls down the stairs.
Peter, hurry up! You're missing dinner.
Lois, what the hell?
So eventually we figure out that this camera is taking photos that are even more horrible than this one. Or this. Or this. I hate my editor. So Spidey is this weird man working in town, essentially seen around the Kaufman House, but we'll come back to him later. Next, Banks. So yeah, Greg, he takes a picture of his dad's brand new car.
Pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Now, Josh, my boy, I'd love to give you that. A new car!
It's like a crappy 92 Taurus.
The most visible change is the Taurus wagon's 92 sheet metal. Everything except the doors has been replaced. The new panels give the wagon's now classic aero shape a sportier feel.
But anyways, when he takes a picture, the car is totaled, which because it's a Ford, it was going to be anyway. Found on road dead, never forget. I drive a Crown Vic. Soon, they go on a little test drive with this car. The dad, trying to pretend that he's essentially driving a race car, starts to go 60 or 70 miles on this family drive. The whole family is going together with the parents, Greg, and his brother, Terry. And they almost crash into a truck. So Greg starts to get a little disturbed, not that his dad drives a Ford, more so that about this camera and how ominous it becomes. Then Greg takes a picture of Terry at Terry's request later on, and his brother looks horrified. Greg's first assumption is that this thing is broken. Later on, him and Sherry go to see Bird, who happens to play baseball at a baseball game in the hot summer in Pitt's Landing. Greg takes a picture of Bird. It shows him hit in the head, unconscious, sprawled on the ground.
Oh my gosh. That ball hit Stanton right up in the face area. It looked like his hands covering his face.
And this is the first of another thing I shall let you know about Arlstein. He must have had some kind of freak accident with baseball, because he just loves these disturbing incidents that have to do with baseball. So Bird's injured, he's sprawled on the ground, and he's unconscious. First time around, it's a total fake out. He fakes Greg into thinking it happened. And then, as a kid hits a line drive, Bird gets conked in the head, and he's sprawled on the ground unconscious.
For a manager, all the buttons that you push, you're hoping for good things, and they just haven't happened that way.
Oh, my. Cap is on the ground. Molina comes in to score. Escobar scores.
As Greg and Sherry have to process this, another issue comes up. Terry, the picture comes true. Terry looks horrified. He comes up to Greg. He says, "It's Dad. Come to the hospital." Why? Because the car was crashed. No, the engine did not blow out. That's the thing I didn't expect.
This episode brought to you by Ford.
Keep that. So eventually Greg, as previously stated, has the nightmare sequence of all of them being skeletons and them looking dead in the picture. For some reason, and this is my biggest problem with the book, this should have been enough to decide this thing is haunted, I need to get away from this and stop using it. No, that's not enough, because Sherry later calls Greg and tells Greg, "Bring the camera, we all want to see the camera, we're all excited about the camera." Greg hesitates and does exactly what you expect. He brings the camera. Idiot. Eventually a photo is taken that should involve Sherry, but oddly enough, Greg thinks it's broken again because she's not in it. She is not in the picture. And that becomes a plot point because Sherry just disappears. Apparently, just like most of the characters' intuition at this point in the book, Sherry just vanishes.
Rob, when you're editing this, I would like to see an Astros joke at the baseball thing. That was like several minutes ago.
Here's a ground ball right side, could do it. The Houston Astros are world champions for the first time in franchise history.
So we've already established that there's a huge problem with this camera, but apparently enough is not enough because Bird later on takes a picture of Greg. Sherry's in the picture. Greg in a matter of frustration, rips up all the pictures.
Weird. Protein. Heist.
So right as Greg's about to go to the party, his room looks like it's been ransacked and just destroyed, as if someone broke into it. So his room essentially just looks more trashed than me after every single New Year's since 2015. Later on, Sherry reappears because of all the pictures that were torn. And after that, the two have had enough.
Enough is enough! I have had it with these mother...
They decided that at this point, let's bring the camera back. But as Greg is thinking about the camera and contemplating how things can get worse, two bullies show up. These two 9th graders, because apparently in Goosebumps world, a bunch of 14-year-olds are concerned about what a 6th grader is doing and feels the need to mess with them. They try to take the camera from Greg and just mess with him. Greg books it and takes the camera before they can do any harm, and the kids are just standing there laughing at them. But this day gets worse because Spidey's in town and he starts chasing after Greg. Greg and Sherry just want to peacefully sneak back into the Kaufman house, no harm, and just drop off the camera. Spidey is waiting back at the Kaufman house. And I will say here, this is a part of the book I really enjoyed. This book had one of the stronger climaxes of the early entries. You know why? We get an explanation for everything that is happening. Spidey's real name is Dr. Fredericks. He essentially, him and his partner worked as scientists. They invented things. Spidey, or Dr. Fredericks in this case, tried to steal the invention of his partner. So his partner cursed this camera, and Spidey states, it feels like the camera steals souls. That's why all these horrible pictures are taken. And afterwards, Greg and Sherry basically say, we just want to leave this camera here. We won't tell everyone, they'll just go. Spidey decides he can't let them go. They know enough.
If you leave, I won't cry. I won't waste one single day. But if you leave, don't look back.
They have to be stuck in the Kaufman house with this evil invention. How do they get out of this? By taking a picture of Spidey, and he dies of fright. Maybe he'll go get pet Petey the dog from Welcome to the Dead house up in Goosebumps heaven. And drive the beat-up Ford Taurus too. So as they leave, we get a okay twist. Those 9th grade bullies, which essentially are probably what Billy Loomer from Ned Z Classified School Survival Guide grew up to be, they go into the camera, they laugh to themselves, they take a picture inside the Kaufman house, and they see what comes out. Okay, as far as classic Goosebumps go, I am going to give this book its due because this is one of the most talked about concepts in Goosebumps, and I really did enjoy the idea of the camera, but I feel like it unloads its clip a little early as we get a mid-part where I'm just sitting there like, why are they using the camera? Don't they have enough evidence to put 2 and 2 together that they need to stop? Did Evan from Monster Blood show up in this book too? But other than that, I have to say, as previously stated, I really enjoy a climax that gives us real answers, and Spidey is an interesting and rather peculiar villain. And I loved how instead of these ridiculous pictures such as them doing something stupid like growing weird hair or turning into mummies or just some really dumb crap.
Getting fat.
Anyways, overall, I have to say that I am not in love with this book as much as other people, but I do think it's still a great book with its concept. I just don't think the mystery aspect really worked out because it blew its clip early on, but with an incredible climax, a good concept, I cannot hate too much. Say Cheese and Die is a classic Goosebumps book that you definitely have to read. It's just, for me personally, I will say I like it, but I'm not in love with it. And you know, I think by now they figured out that there's no point in using the camera again. They should stay far away from this, which is exactly why we have a sequel 40 books later. Reviewer, please beware. We'll get to that. Next time, we are going into the Egyptian pyramids with Goosebumps number 5, The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb.
More like Curse of the Boring's Tomb.
City of stars, are you shining just for